Welcome to You're Still Doing That, where we talk to everyday people about their childhood joys that have endured into adulthood. A podcast about a thing you've loved your whole life and continue to do, practice, or work at today. If you love the podcast, please visit my website, www.you'restilldoingthat.com, and leave a tip. You can also get caught up on all the past episodes and answer fun questions and polls, or even make a suggestion about a future guest. I'm sure your friends and family will love to get nominated to be on the podcast. Remember, www.you'restilldoingthat.com is the only podcast website to check out. With us today, we have the wonderful and fabulous Urmi. Welcome to the show, Urmi.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, we're doing great. So let me make sure I got all your accolades straight. Urmi has been has quite a lot of things she's been doing as an adult, and she's been got a lot of fabulous things credited to her. She's a published author. She is an activist for women's rights. She's a teacher, teaching English and Italian languages to people that would like to improve their speech personally and professionally. And I think probably the biggest hat you get to wear is you are a CFA.
That's true.
Yeah. So, yeah, all of those by themselves are extraordinary, but to put them all on top of each other is quite outstanding. All of those things that you're so wonderfully good at, they're all tied together with one single thing you've been doing for quite a long time. And what is that one thing we're going to talk about today, Urmi?
For me, has been learning and studying. So that's something that I've been doing since a kid.
Yeah, I would bet so. So let's get into it. Urmi, where were you born?
I was born in Italy.
Excellent. That is one of my bucket list countries to visit at some point in my life. My wife is a big fan. She's been learning French, and so she does want to go to France. So I
Okay.
figured if we get to go to France, we'll slide over and get to Italy too. Being big into learning and studying, what were your studies like in school growing up?
There was, I can definitely tell you one of the, probably the major memory that I have from my childhood is that I used to study a lot, like a lot.
I bet
Um,
so.
really a lot, especially when I was in high school and afterwards. I would just every single afternoon I would study from 3 until midnight. I would do the same thing on the weekends, and that's what I would do. And I always enjoyed doing every bit of it very much.
Now, was that in Italy?
That was in Italy, yes.
Italy, yeah, because I wasn't sure how long you stayed in Italy. Now, did your parents were they big advocates to push you to study, or was that something you just did kind of naturally?
So of course I feel like every parent, they always wanted like their kids to do well in school, but they never like push me to, you have to keep studying. It was just me. It
Right,
was
right,
just me taking that decision. So I I would like say no if there was an event or something. I would actually say no, I cannot go because I want to study. And so this was really something that I genuinely wanted to do. Like no one told me do that.
right. Well, that's good. I was hoping I wasn't going to hear the opposite about how your parents were locking you in your room to study the whole time.
No,
uh,
no.
did you? What were your favorite subjects growing up?
I very much enjoy studying languages. So,
Yeah.
because I very much enjoyed learning English, English literature, business in English. We did the same thing with French. We did the same thing with German. So I very much enjoyed those particular subject. I also enjoyed doing math, but I don't think I ever realized that I enjoyed doing math until I went to finance,
Right.
because like I remember like I would get good grades in math. I would enjoy doing math, but I never went out and said, oh, math is my favorite subject.
Um, so, uh, so, um, So do you speak were you were born in Italy, but what is your like parents' heritage?
It's Bengali, so they are from
Bengali.
Bangladesh.
Yeah. So do you speak Bengali?
I do. I do.
Wonderful. So how did knowing an extra language when you were growing up, when you were younger, how did that affect your studies, being able to speak multiple languages?
So we would just speak Bengali at home, and we spoke
Yeah.
it like we always do. We always spoke Bengali, but I never felt like I was able to express myself properly the same way that I was doing when I was speaking in Italian.
Gotcha.
So yes, Bengali was my mother tongue, but I always say Italian was my adopted mother tongue.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
Um,
So, how many languages do you would you say that you are kind of able to just stay up with somebody with?
4.5.
Oh, that's a lot. 4.5. What's the point five?
Spanish.
Spanish. Yes. Well, oh, me being here in the United States, that's probably the number one second language we everybody learns here, and is what's taught, at least what they try to teach in school. But America's terrible with trying to teach languages to other people. We're awful at it. I wish we would take notes from some of our European friends and how they handle languages in school. Do you think it helped? Do you think knowing multiple language? Do you think it helped with your studies any more than say if you were just an Italian speaker?
I think knowing multiple languages, it helped me when it came to learn other languages. Like the fact that I learned French, the fact that I learned Spanish, I think it helped me because they are so similar. So I was able to, use some of the rules in other languages. So it
Right.
helped it helped to speed up the learning. So
You
that's
could find
that's
some of the other patterns
yeah.
and click them together. Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. What are some good tips and strategies to create a good study habit?
I definitely think you need discipline.
Yeah,
It's
I
called
agree.
self-discipline. It's called self-discipline, and you need that. No matter how many distractions you have, no matter how many people tell you to do things, go out, you have to find a way to say no and
Right.
to dedicate your time towards studying. So definitely you need self-discipline, and I think you need a lot of consistency with that.
Yes, definitely. That is also something I think our European friends are better at. Self discipline and saying no and putting a priority in front of us. You
Yeah.
are so true. When you are researching a new topic, what's one of the study habits that you kind of tend to repeat when you need to learn something new, either for work or personally? What's something that you always kind of go to?
Is in the resource, or is it more like a habit that I have?
Yeah, like a habit or a strategy that you always find
Oh,
yourself doing.
revision,
Say that again.
revision,
Oh, revision. Yes.
and
Going over it
practicing.
over and over. Yeah. Yeah, that rote practice learning model, that's never going to die. That helps every single time.
Yeah,
Now, you are a CFA, which is I had to look up exactly what a CFA was because finances is
it's
nowhere near my table. Is it a chartered financial assistant? Did I get that right?
no, chartered financial
Oh, analyst.
analyst.
There it is. Chartered financial analyst. There you go. I found it where I wrote it down. Now, that is major, major, big time when I
Hmm.
was researching that. It's considered kind of one of the biggest, much harder than being a lawyer and the bar exam.
Really?
It
I
was,
didn't
it
know
was,
this.
yes, it
I'll
was
take
considered
that.
pretty high up there. When I was,
Okay.
yeah, when I was at Google, they were listing what was the hardest exams to pass, and the CFA was up there as like the number one hardest thing to pass off.
No way. Okay, I learned something
Yes,
new now.
it was yeah way higher than passing the bar to become a lawyer. What were some of the what were some of the things you had to really buckle down and do to learn all of the things to pass off that exam?
It was a lot of sacrifice, I can tell
I
you.
bet so. I
It was
bet
a lot of
so.
it was a lot of sacrifice. It was a lot of self-discipline, revision, practicing, and I it took me a while just because of the pandemic. They had to push the exam twice,
Yeah,
and so I couldn't do it. So it was a lot of mental exhaustion at some point. But I
right.
told myself, like, I was like, I see other people being able to achieve it, and it was my own self achievement. And so I told myself, like, I have to remember my why. Why did I start with this?
Yeah,
What do I want to achieve with this? So there was a lot of like inner work and mental work that I was doing to build that resilience and strength in me so that I could pass the exam. So I put like all my soul into this exam
yes.
because I also wanted to set an example for other women in the industry who wanted to achieve such a difficult designation.
Yeah. So, for my listeners, can you tell us what does a CFA do? What are some of the things you would do in the workplace?
So, when you get this designation, usually you do it because you want to work in portfolio management. And so it's something that you need because you need that type of knowledge and expertise to work as a portfolio manager or as a financial advisor to manage the money of your clients. So there is of course, a quantitative aspect which comes with calculating the performance, the risk, and so forth. And then there is a qualitative aspect to it, right? And the CFA teaches you a lot about how do you deal with clients, how do you explain things with clients, how do you explain like complex financial concepts and make them much more simpler for your clients who have no clue about money.
Right.
So that's one thing that it definitely helps you. Like this is one thing that you need if you want to work as a portfolio manager. And of course there are other things that you can use the designation for. For instance, if you just want to be like an equity analyst or a research analyst, again you need that because what the CFA teaches you is how you can pick the stocks, like how do we analyze the stocks that we want to use to
Yes.
build a portfolio, how are they going to be performing in a couple of years, what's the risk, are they good for these people, are they good for like certain other people, like so there is a lot of like analytical element when it comes
Yeah.
to with the CFA. So this is also another path that you can take is you can become a research analyst.
Got you. So, if someone wants to become a CFA, what type of college coursework would they be going through if that's something they want to achieve?
There is no college. It's a do it
Right.
yourself. It's do it yourself. Basically, how it works is there is an institute called the CFA Institute, and you have to sign up to the exam through them. And
Right.
you basically, upon signing up, you receive all the materials, and you have to study on your own. They don't offer courses. You can buy additional courses, but it's
Gotcha.
not in a classroom setting. It's not happening that way. It's just you on your own studying, and which is why I think it makes it difficult because you don't have that one-to-one interaction, but you have to find
Right.
online resources like forums or find videos online that teach or explain that concept. So that's why I think it's hard because it's a do it yourself. There is no an actual course. So like there's no actual physical environment for you to attend a class or take a course.
Right. Got you. Well, that does make it difficult to do all that on your own. Well, kudos to you for getting all that done. Now, are there different levels of being a CFA or is it just one designation?
No, it's one designation. There is no partial recognition. You have to finish all the levels and complete all the requirements, and only after that then you can add those three letters next to your name.
Right.
Before that you're not putting anything. It's actually a violation.
Got you. That's a lot of work for three little letters after your name. So you're also an author,
Right.
and you wrote the book Discovering Your Identity, A Rebirth from Interracial Struggle. Now, what kind of studying and research did you have to do beforehand to be able to write a novel? Or not really
so
a novel, but a self help book.
so it's actually my memoir. because
Yeah.
I talk about myself, but my research was more about how do I write a book because I
Right.
had zero clue. So I had a friend and I
Exactly.
spoke to him and I said, how do I write a book? Where do I start from?
Yeah.
So he suggested me another book called How to Write a Book in 30 Days. So I read
Yeah.
that book.
To write a
I
book, you got to read a book. I love it.
so I read that book, and then after reading the book, I was like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and I'm just gonna start writing anything that comes to my mind. So
Yeah.
every day I would like block 30 minutes, an hour, and I would just start typing. I would just start typing, and
Yeah.
only after I basically like re-looked at it, I worked on it, I like had the chapters, and then I had to find the somewhere on like a freelancer to help me to basically like edit
Edit.
it, have a
Yeah.
nice
Yeah.
cover, and then I self-published it. But it did take me like to write it, it took me 30 days.
You're right. Well, you did. You stuck to the game plan and
Yeah.
did it in 30 days. I love it. Well, that's a lot of self discipline there to get that time straightened out for you. You're also activist for women's rights and for women in professional settings. And one thing I saw when I was reading some of your bio that sparked my interest is you are active against fighting against a practice, and I'm going to call it of an arranged marriage, which still happens in many countries. Which I don't know if I was quite aware of, or I just sort of blocked it out of my head that that was something old that didn't happen anymore.
So it's
But
not arranged marriage. I'm gonna correct you there.
okay, go ahead.
It's called child marriage, which is different. They're
Oh, that
two
sounds
different
even
things.
worse.
They're two different things. I'm not
Yeah.
against arranged marriages. I think arranged marriages work pretty fine. I have a lot of relatives who got married through that. I'm against child marriage, which I think is much, much, much worse.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
Yeah.
So, where does a practice like that still continue?
It continues in many countries, like in Africa. It happens
Yeah.
in, and also a lot in Asia. But there is an organization that I volunteer for called the Speak Up for the Poor, and basically the organization is based in Bangladesh, and they do fight child marriages. So what they do is that they provide an education to these young women, and they teach them to be independent,
Right.
and they try to get them out of this child marriage system because the problem is that in certain countries like in Bangladesh, but it also happens in other countries, is that when the girl reaches a certain age, and I'm talking like less than 18, they do tend to be given away in marriage because they're seen as a burden, like a financial burden for the family, especially like if
Right.
you're a poor family, you just give the girls away into marriages. So the organization tries to fight this by providing education, by providing like mentorship, by training them, making sure that they're independent, financially independent, so that they can sustain themselves.
Well, that's a great organization.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's and good that you take time to stand out and speak about that too. You also are a teacher of English and Italian languages. So, how does your preparation go for that when you're going to teach a class? What is your studying and prep
I
like?
I do very much enjoy that you said I'm a teacher, but I'm gonna lower myself. I'm actually a tutor, not a. I'm not. I wish I was a teacher, but it was always my dream. But I would say more. I'm more like a tutor. I do this more for fun.
Gotcha.
But usually, yeah, I do tutor in English and in Italian because I feel like I have so much knowledge and I wanna give it back in some ways. And usually the preparation, it really depends. I usually try to come up with either like articles, or I do have some videos that I send, or some podcasts. And I do
Gotcha.
usually choose the topic based on the interest of the student. So at least I know that it's going to make the lesson a bit more interactive, dynamic, and engaging. And I usually, because they're just conversation for someone who wants to just practice the language, I just make them talk as much as they can. And then I just
Right.
correct minor things as they're speaking. So usually like I keep it very like simple but fun at the same time.
Yeah. Well, if you ever start French, let me know because My wife has gotten quite good at French, but she needs to start talking to somebody in French, and she's very nervous to speak to somebody
Oh,
else. So now I'm going to ask you some fun questions. How? Let's see. So we already talked about how many languages you speak. 4.5. What do you think is the longest amount of time you've studied in one sitting?
12 hours.
12 hours, man. I don't know if I've done anything other than sleep for 12 hours straight. Um, what's your favorite place to study at?
In my room, like the place where I work usually.
Right. Do you have a favorite kind of food or snack while you study?
A lot of coffee. A lot
Coffee,
of
yes.
coffee.
That's what I use for like morning. I do lots of my work in the morning,
Uh-huh.
and I like a tall espresso. I always make when I get started in the morning. Are you someone that likes silence when you study, or do you like music playing?
Silence.
Silence. Yeah, I think it depends on what I'm doing. If I have something playing, but normally, if it's something that I got to really think about, silence is best. Yeah, I think so.
It's silence, but if I absolutely want to block everything around me, I put a video of like raining, like if it's raining outside. Like I
Yeah,
like to hear the sound of the rain.
right, right,
There you
right.
go.
Yeah. A lot of people love to do that. If you had a week of no responsibilities, what is something you would like to dedicate your time to learn? What would you study if you didn't have any responsibilities?
I would definitely learn, continue learning Spanish, watch a lot of documentaries,
Yeah,
and read a lot of books.
you're right. I love it. All right, Ermi, we've gotten to the end of our podcast here. So I got 6 questions I always ask everybody right at the end. And it's always
Oh,
interesting to see people's answers and if they differ. All
okay.
right, first one. What's your favorite smell?
Favorite smell? I know this the smell of the ocean.
Ooh, that's a great one. What's your favorite sandwich?
I don't even eat sandwiches.
Oh, okay. Well, what about your favorite kind of salad?
Okay, I like my salad. Okay, I'm gonna tell you how I make it because it's the
Okay,
Italian way of making it. So I like my mozzarella, tomato, cucumber salad, and then I put black pepper, salt, and olive oil. Like I just like it that simple.
right. Oh, that's good. I like it basic. What's your favorite kind of drink?
Coffee,
Coffee, yes. And I'm going to ask you this one because I saw it in your biography. What is your favorite kind of pasta?
al pesto, pasta al pesto.
Pesto?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's great too. What's the one of the most beautiful things you've ever seen?
One of the most beautiful thing I ever seen. You know what? I it's when I went to in Mexico, and it also happened when I went to Dominican Republic. And when you see the beauty of the ocean in the morning, that's
Hmm.
I think that's really like breathtaking.
Yes.
That's a very calm moment.
Yeah, I got my son and I got to watch the sunset over the Gulf of Mexico, and I'd never seen the sunset over the water before. And I imagine that was just as pretty as maybe seeing a sunrise over the water too. What's one thing that makes you happy every single time it happens?
uh, you know what? It's when you receive or someone does something nice unexpectedly.
Oh, that is a great one. I love it. What kind of advice would you give yourself as a kid? If you could send one little bit of advice back to your younger self.
Don't don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid. That's great. I know a lot of people like to say, "Don't worry, everything will work out." And so, don't be afraid. All right, Urmi, it was great to have you on the show. It's been really great getting to know you. You can catch her on Instagram or YouTube. She's got a lot of videos on how YouTube can become a CFA. She's got lots of great videos on YouTube. You can find her book just to play out. Most places they sell books. Discovering Your Identity, A Rebirth from Interracial Struggle. You can find it anywhere. So go get your copy now. Urmi, it was a pleasure to get to know you, and I wish you all the greatest success. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Remember, folks, find what makes you happy and get to it. There's a lot of life out to live, a lot of life out there to live. So make it a good one. Be nice, be kind, be good. Make sure you study, and have a good week.